Hey, it worked. Okay, let's shrink this. Okay, there we go. Welcome, welcome. I had a few technical difficulties. I tried to go live a minute ago and it said, sorry, you can't do that, but it wouldn't say why. um, well, clearly, we're supposed to be talking about the Ukraine, except that there's so much to unpack there and so much lack of key information that I don't honestly think I have anything to add to the discussion. I mean, it is, I hate to see a country invaded by another country. There's no, it's not like the Ukraine did something horrible to offend Russia or that, there's something going on there. There are legitimate concerns both directions. However, armed force was probably not the solution. This is not a situation like Georgia where, as much as it was a brute force approach, Russia had legitimate security concerns where basically terrorists were using good chunks of Georgia as staging grounds, and Georgia just couldn't do anything about it. This is blatant force, but there's so much more going on with it that I just really, I would be speaking from ignorance, not knowledge. So, gonna pass. Um, it is interesting that apparently the Emergency Power Act from Canada has been rescinded. We'll see if, all the things they put in place while they had it are rolled back. But talk about a huge, huge overreach. The lies that were used to justify it, the overreach of even the justification, like that, even if they actually were doing what they were saying that they were doing, meaning what the government was saying the protesters were doing was true, it was still an overreach, even from members of their own government. People were saying, hold on a minute, this isn't kosher. And the way they use those powers, um, I, I don't know. I think it is the kind of thing where, yes, there is a limit to what you can allow protesters to do. These protesters were not being violent. These protesters were not really blocking international trade. Hey, I mean, they're making it more difficult, but honestly, they're making it more difficult as much by the fact that they're the drivers that should be doing it sitting there on their butts saying, screw you, we're not going to do it, right? Like that's a good chunk of what they were doing because they were leaving lanes open for the actual bridge for the travel. They were not blocking all of the travel in Ottawa downtown. They were not stopping businesses because, irony of ironies, the Ottawa police shut down businesses that they were working with, that they were purchasing things from. So clearly, if they were shutting down business in Ottawa, they wouldn't have needed to then have the police shut down businesses in Ottawa for serving them. Would also love to see what the legal justification is for shutting down, like, for example, a restaurant that we're open for business. I, if somebody comes in, I'm going to serve them. If somebody wants food, I'm going to sell it to them. And you're shutting them down because you don't like who they sold it to. Mm, yeah. I wasn't aware that the restaurant had to evaluate their customer base to make sure that they weren't somehow a terrorist. I'm sorry. If the person walks in off the street and politely orders some, poutine and coffee, you know, particularly when they're willing to pay for it, So yeah, um, I think that absolutely, like all the conspiracy stuff about, this was a dry run, this was a beta test and all that. I think to a large extent that's true. I don't necessarily believe in like the worldwide conspiracy thing, but there's a certain measure of that. There's certainly people who benefit from the knowledge that this is how far we can push. This is how much pushback we got. This is who pushed back. These are what organizations effectively organized to fight back. These are the thought leaders online who resisted, who said, this is wrong, and that people listened to. That's a key thing. For example, if you are, and I'll just use her because she's somebody I follow. If you're a Morgan Zegers and you say what the Canadian government is doing is wrong, blah blah blah, and you get 100,000 people to comment, like, follow, retweet, whatever it is, right? There's a ton of engagement. You are clearly somebody that people are looking at and going, I value their opinion. Well, the next time you want to do this, somehow Morgan Zegers' social media doesn't work, or they're a ringleader. If you're doing that in the US, gosh, we're going to arrest her because she's clearly an insurrectionist, right? That's not conspiracy. That we watched that happen. Obviously not in this case with Morgan Zegers, but there were people who did no protesting, who threw no rocks, and got arrested simply because they were people those protesters were looking to for leadership. To me, that is not freedom. That is tyranny. I don't care if you cloak it in a Emergency Powers Act. That is not what a free nation should be doing to their citizenry. You can absolutely, I disagree with it in the sense that I think it's the wrong thing to do, but these are truck drivers with licenses from the federal government, or in the Canadian case, whatever their system is for licensing drivers. You can say, hey, we're not renewing your license. We think you are a risk, whatever the security risk thing is, right? In the US, they wouldn't necessarily not renew your license, but your TWIC card, you may not be able to get in ports, railroad terminals, refineries, and all that. And a lot of truck drivers make, if you're not the new guy, very often that's where the money is. The guys with the TWIC card going to these major installations, they get paid more. In terms of income as a truck driver, in case you're not aware, there are your local delivery guys. So they're picking up a truck, a trailer, and they're doing a delivery locally. Very often these are straight trucks. They're not tractor trailers, but some tractor trailers. But you're basically home every day, and you're not going to any security controlled installation. You're going to mostly normal businesses. A lot of it is less than load deliveries where you're picking up larger goods from one location, dropping them off at another. A lot of food deliveries are that way. You're picking them up at a distribution site and taking them to the stores, that kind of thing. And then you have hazmat, which is going to be TWIC carded. You have controlled substances. You have anything from a rail yard, anything from an airport, anything where there's actual government mandated security. They get paid more. And most of the time. Certainly some companies rip them off, but unions are a thing for drivers. I don't know of any over the road, like major trucking companies that are not unionized. I'm sure they're out there, but in the US, at least, the Teamsters are, if you drive a big rig or other similar truck, almost all of them are union. And the union is pretty solid about, if you're doing this kind of work, you get paid this, and then adjusted for local market. They don't play. In fact, they're ironically enough, they can often hurt their drivers because they can make it so that an employer doesn't pay more. uh, if an employer knows what the rate is that the union is saying you have to pay, if they would pay more, they don't. Um, they can absolutely play that game. I have seen that more than once where a company was trying to hire drivers and it was basically arguing with the union, trying to offer X benefits and this package and that package. And the union's going, well, we want them to get our benefits, not yours, despite the fact that the company's benefit package was better. Not a little bit, I mean, like a lot better. But the union doesn't get any money from that, right? The union makes money if the employees have to have the union benefit package. So the company says, well, we'll pay union rates and they'll get your benefits. And we'll let our drivers vote on that, right? And here's all the information we're going to hand out to the drivers. Here's our information sheet. And, they can argue about it and debate about it for a week and vote. And generally speaking, the union gets told, we don't want your benefits. We want the company's benefits. And we want what the company was saying they were going to pay us, not what you're saying they should pay us. But then the union gets something else out of it. It's always a give and take. I actually think that the union should be more involved in this because I think that this is a direct persecution of the drivers who are just trying to do their job. This all started because the drivers wanted an extension of their vaccination exemptions because they're exempt in the US. They don't have to be vaccinated for most stuff. And when they were going into Canada for a long time, they didn't have to be vaccinated. If you were doing local runs in Canada and such, I think you might have had to be, I don't know all the details, but suddenly that expired and Canada was like, no, now you have to be vaccinated. Just as we're finding out that there's a lot of problems with these vaccines that, the numbers of people seeking medical attention have vastly increased. The major medical claims on insurances for companies that mandated people get vaccinated, well, suddenly they're much higher. And not just on little stuff. It's major issues, major non-acute. It's not that somebody fell down and broke a leg. It's somebody's having lung issues. Somebody's having heart issues, and we'll see. I mean, it could certainly turn out to be that, hey, it's all background from COVID. It's not actually the vaccine. It's possible. I'm not saying it's not. But so far, the information is showing that there's a bias toward the companies that mandated versus companies that didn't, or regions that didn't. The numbers are one thing for places that did not require a vaccine, and people primarily didn't get it, to places that did. And the places that did have higher issues. The science of why that is and all that has not been settled yet. In this case, I'm going to wait and trust the science. I'm going to wait to see what the insurance companies see over time as causes, total incident rate. They study this. They don't play. The insurance companies look at this as a very clear-cut risk value, analysis. They do not care what some doctor they got paid thinks. They care about how much is this going to cost us? Is it cheaper for us to not require these people to be vaccinated, or is it cheaper for us to require them to be? Do we adjust our rate for vaccinated versus unvaccinated, and so on? Just like smoker, non-smoker, chronic drinker, non-chronic drinker, or if you're a workers' comp insurance, accident prone, non-accident prone, meaning your job. In that case, are you in a job where people get hurt regularly? Or are you not in a job that people get hurt regularly? So I don't know. I don't know the answers on this, but I think that we're seeing a lot of information. And The abuse the police dished out in Canada, the violence, the blocking the media, I think that if they felt they were doing the right thing, if they felt that they were justified, you wouldn't block the media. You wouldn't only be allowing your government media that you control to put out a very tightly scripted message. Now, don't get me wrong. Overall, I'm not a big fan of the media, but they were blocking even small independents. They were blocking anybody not government controlled in Canada, and that's not that's the kind of thing you do when you're doing something wrong, right? That's a third world dictatorship kind of behavior. This is different from saying, well, hang on, we have a situation here that is uncontrolled, violent. We cannot protect you. If you go in there, we can't protect you. And this is not a scenario where there really are national secrets at stake, where, hey, we're not letting reporters into the test of our new stealth aircraft. Yeah, okay. That's not what this is. This is a nonviolent protest. The violence from this protest was the police. Literally, the police were the violent ones. Over and over and over, we saw this. The protesters were minding their own business, basically having a sit-in. This was if there was ever a hippie protest, right? I mean, going back to the flower child, era, where you're having a sit-in and you're basically saying the civil rights movement in the U.S., the Martin Luther King style, not so much the Malcolm X style. We are going to sit here and block this road and make you be the asshole. And the truckers didn't even go that far because they didn't block the road. They blocked part of the road. Traffic was still going through. It wasn't like there was a huge backlog. I don't see the problem. And then you get into the irony of this. So you're saying their justification for this being a national security issue and must stop it and all this is that they're interfering with trade and commerce. That was the justification. Okay. So if all these truckers just say, fuck you, we don't drive, what are you going to do? Just saying, if they all go home and say, you know what? Screw you. We'll get different jobs. We'll retire early. Because keep in mind, a lot of those guys looked older. Certainly some of them were not, but a lot of the people I was seeing on the media, they look to be old enough. They probably have a pension. They probably have a retirement plan. Like a lot of truckers keep going long after they could retire just because that's their life. That's what they've known. That's what they do. And if you tell those people, well, we're going to shit on you, we treat you like shit, and then they say, okay, that's fine. But I'm not going to do business for you anymore. I'm not going to drive your goods, meaning national. What are you going to do? There's a shortage of truckers already. We're already having a logistics problem, right? I mean, this is an international thing. If 1% of the truckers in Canada decide to just say, blah, screw you, we're going home. We're taking our truck and we're going home. You got a real problem. If all the independent drivers that could retire, just retire. If all the ones working for larger firms just take their pension and go home. I got bad news for you. There's going to be a lot of empty stores. There's going to be a lot of empty gas stations. There's going to be a lot of businesses that shut down because the goods they needed to produce the goods didn't make it. And just speaking from my own experience, most businesses stop within the week. If you aren't getting regular deliveries, you're done. Medical facilities, maybe a week, no joke. And it isn't like you can give them half indefinitely. Half means, okay, they make it to 2 weeks before I'm out. If you give them 2/3, they make it to 3 weeks, right? But they have to have a continuous supply, or in most cases, they just can't operate. Um, if you're a manufacturing facility and the trucker that is supposed to be delivering the screws you use to assemble whatever it is, your widget, he says, "Nah, I'm going home." Well, that trucking company probably doesn't have somebody else available. They're already backlogged. So now they're scrambling to find somebody to deliver your order. They probably picked it up. It probably got to them, but now somebody's got to take it from their facility to your facility. Well, okay. But if some alternate driver is taking that order to you, they're not taking some other order somewhere else. See where I'm going with this? So you already have something that's a mess, and now you have pissed off and abused the people who you most need working their hardest. Because I guarantee rail workers are looking at this, port workers are looking at this and going, damn. Because don't get me wrong, port workers, rail workers, and truckers, they might bicker and argue, and their unions may, uh, fight over who pays more and this and that. But when it comes down to it, those are the kind of guys who sit down at the bar together and bitch about their local politicians and talk about the local women and best bar to drink at, and where to stop for food. Like, if you pull into a local roadside bar or restaurant, traditional greasy spoon, right, at lunchtime, and you see a local truck, I guarantee the over the road guys are going, okay, that's a good place to stop. Because if that dump truck, for example, is sitting there, he's not there delivering something. He's a local guy. He chose to eat there. Well, I'm going to stop in there and I'm going to say hi to that guy because we're in roughly the same kind of work. We're probably similar guys. We got the same kind of problems. These are people who commiserate with each other. They feel for each other. It's like brothers. And to some extent they are. You may fight and argue internally, but if there's a problem from outside, everybody turns and faces and fights together. Great. Now you've pissed off all the people that you need working together to get this logistics supply chain problem solved. You just convinced every single one of them that you don't care about them at all, that you are more concerned with something that most of the world has decided is done with. That the science is saying, hey, the risk factor from this is much lower than we previously thought it was. And maybe it was that at one point. I'm not even arguing that. But they're saying that now the current risk level is such that we can open this up. We can say, hey, there's no more vaccine mandate. There's no more mask mandate. There's no more restrictions on travel, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, Canada's saying, screw you. We're going to take the hickory stick to anybody that disagrees with us and invoke emergency powers. That doesn't go well. Anyway, I am going to get off that topic. Nobody is in here watching, despite me posting this, several days ahead. So I will move on to topic 2. Topic 2 was my freaking sweatshirt is all bundled up. Topic 2 was, and my air heat is about to turn on. I don't know how loud that's going to be on this mic. Oh, I'm using this mic. It should be fine. I was thinking I was using the GoPro mic. This is the GoPro, by the way. Notice the very wide angle. So the 30 super carry. This is not my main discussion of it or anything else. I was under the impression that it used much lighter bullets. I was, for some reason, thinking it was like 380 bullets, where like 90 or 100 was really heavy. and maybe 85 grain was more normal. I was not under the impression that it was like 100 to 115 grain was normal. That changes my whole thought behind this. I don't think you're going to get significantly reduced recoil with 100 grain, 115 grain projectiles in it, but a little bit reduced. The 115s aren't going as fast as 9mm, but your sectional density is going to be higher. Because think about this, if it's 115 grains and it's skinnier, it means it's longer, right? If it's longer, you're going to have higher sectional density. Well, we know the sectional density is key for penetration. Well, if you have that extra penetration, you can have that bullet open up more and still get sufficient penetration, right? You still have enough base to hold it together to keep driving it forward. That's one of the problems with a shorter bullet opening up significantly, is it just comes apart. There's nothing left to hold it together, and there's nothing left to drive it forward. If you have a longer bullet, if you can leave, a chunk of solid base, because remember, bullets are engineered. It's not just, they didn't just slap some lead into a copper shell and hope for the best. They adjust the thickness on the copper. They bond it to the lead. They have solid copper ones. Like, there's some real engineering going on. So if you can design it so that this lower portion stays intact, you can open up that upper portion significantly compared to a 9mm, get all the penetration you want along with a larger wound channel, in theoretically a little less recoil, maybe another round or two in a compact, much less a full size. You might get 2 or even 3, right? I don't think it's going to work so much in a subcompact. It is a longer shell, and the pressure. It is 50,000 psi. That is nuts in a handgun. So the super compact stuff. Who is Remy? Remy is me. Nobody of any major significance, but welcome to my channel. Hang on. Hey, I am on my live stream. So can we talk in a minute?
Yeah, I don't want to be on your live.
Bye. So I think from that perspective, in the compact, where the lower recoil is nice, even if it's only a little less. Yeah, I guess the live with Remy implies that Remy is somebody else who is a guest or something. No, it's just me. I needed a cute title for it, and that's what I've decided to use for now. But the lower recoil on a smaller handgun is big. And if you get an extra round in there, great. The better penetration, the better controlled expansion, they're all good things. My only concern, and this is somewhat covered by the better sectional density, is if you don't expand, if you hit something hard before you get to where you want to hit, barrier issues. Speed is not always the answer. And this is one of the failings of 9mm in general. And you've just exacerbated the problem by using a light bullet at high speed. Well, we're not talking 5.7 where it's going warp speed. You're still in the same ballpark. So I don't know. But I think there's definitely some potential there. I think that I was wrong to be, I don't want to say dismissive, but I was much more skeptical of it before I had time to do some research. I'm still trying to get one to shoot. I'm still trying to find somebody who's got one or at least has shot one that I can talk to and get some honest feedback, even if I can't shoot it. Honestly, I may hassle, I'm pretty sure Crispy, Omar Avila, has shot one. And due to his hands, he is very careful with recoil and very aware of it. So he will be a good person if I can get in touch with him to say, hey, This had, significantly less recoil. My split times were better, that kind of thing. Or no, it wasn't a significant difference with the heavier bullets. Didn't notice it. And he's kind of a no bullshit guy, right? So we'll see. I'm pretty sure he did get a chance to shoot one at SHOT Show this year, and we'll see. He's local to me, so if I can get in touch, hell, maybe he's got time to do an interview on it. We'll see. That'd be awesome. I know he is a pretty busy guy, but who knows? I'll buy him some coffee. But what else we got? I don't know. I don't know if I like the perspective on the GoPro. Like as I move, it's significant. When you put it in webcam mode, you can't adjust the zoom. That's not a feature it's got, which is weird. I don't know why. What was that? Did that just flicker? Was I seeing things, or did the live screen just like blink black for a second? Anyway, what else we got? I have a video coming up on. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Like I was like, did I do a weird blink and not notice, or we're having crazy weather here. Okay, that makes sense because I've got the light in the corner here, and if that cut out in my view, my screen that I'm looking at would look very different. So we're having crazy weather here, so it is certainly possible my power did something weird or something. I have battery backups, but who the hell knows? It could have just been the internet hiccup for a fraction of a second. The internet service here, very strange. They don't seem to have a battery backup for the network of like the ISP. Never seen that before. The power went out here and all mine was up with the battery backup. I had no internet access immediately, not 10 minutes later, immediately. Power died and I was cut off. And I was like, are you kidding me? Come on. But whatever. What was it? Where was I going? Steel cased versus brass cased. Where does it matter? Why does it matter? Does it matter? I'm not going to spoil it. But that should be Tuesday's video unless I really don't like it. If I have to do any reshooting or crazy editing, maybe it'll be later. I know I'm throwing a ton of fishing stuff up. Really, there are 2 videos a week. Everything else is just me throwing extra content up, trying to build the fishing audience, trying to make YouTube go, hey, he does fishing stuff too. Let's show it to that audience. Because right now, most of my viewers are firearm related. Even the ones who aren't subscribed, they're coming here because it's firearms related. And the problem is YouTube doesn't really promote that. So if I can give it enough content that it starts promoting me for the fishing content, that'll really help the channel. We'll see. There's no guarantees, right? On that note, the new blade baits, bladed jigs. When the weather clears up, I'll have fishing video of them. It is currently freezing out. No joke. It went from 83 degrees and me getting a sunburn while fishing to freezing cold snow and ice. Gotta love Texas. So hopefully, because we literally were at spawn. I sat and watched a pair of fish doing their thing 2 days ago. And it literally just went down to below freezing for several days, and it's going to be a couple more days, and they were in less than a foot of water. I don't know how that's going to go over. That could be really bad. just have to wait and see. I will definitely be out there once the weather warms up. I am going to be busier. I am starting some new work, but I'll still have time to fish. My schedule is going to be all over the place, so I'll be out there. What else? What else? What else we got? I did my content the first like 20 minutes, and I was like, okay, now what? I try to go an hour. If you haven't watched one of my lives before, I try to go an hour, but usually there's more stuff planned and there's engagement. People are asking questions and so on. So if you've got any questions, anything you want to talk about, throw it out there. That's the beauty of live. It doesn't have to be just me rambling on. I'm still getting used to this view on my screen that I'm looking at. It is so wide, like no joke. I'm like a foot and a half from the camera, and my wingspan, in order to make it look like my arms are straight out, I'm a good 20 degrees forward. Like I am not, my arms are not straight out. They are easily 20 degrees toward the camera. That's crazy. On the other hand, it looks better. It, yeah, at least on my screen, let me make it bigger. Yeah, the quality of that video, I think, is better than my Logitech webcam. Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a preference. Everybody finds their niche. I was a pretty diehard 45 guy for a long time, and it's still my carry. And admittedly, that's mostly because of the gun that I carry. I mean, I carry my Kimber Ultra Series, and it's in 45, so that's what I carry. If you've watched some of my videos, you know that I'm at this point kind of, is it enough? Good enough. I think that for people who don't have a reason to be caliber restricted, your hands are not weak, you don't have any kind of disability, there's no downside to 45 other than the ammo count, and I don't think that's a real downside. We're not all going to Afghanistan or Iraq or the Ukraine, right? We don't need to engage 20 people. Ouch. I don't know the PT-145. Let me look that up. Let me pull up my other screen. Whoa. Oh, I am familiar with that. My old housemate slash very long ago ex-girlfriend has the predecessor to that prior generation in 9mm at perfectly good guns. What they recall for. It wasn't my cup of tea, but it was certainly, hers has been very reliable, comfortable to shoot. Certainly, I wouldn't have any question about shooting that thing in 45. I mean, my problem with Taurus has always just been their quality control. If you get one that works well, you get one that works well. It seemed like it was just, if you buy 3 of them, 2 of them are good, and one is, ooh, well, yeah, that could be a problem. That could be that would suck in a 45 caliber handgun. Shot 1 on target, shot 2 head, shot 3 on the berm, shot 4 I have no idea, and more, shoot in the sky. Yeah. I saw somebody have that happen with, and it wasn't the gun's fault. He had been screwing with it. I have to, it has to look hysterical, particularly if somebody doesn't know what's going to happen, or doesn't even suspect. but I saw somebody have it happen with a SIG, one of the old school SIGs in 9 millimeter, and first shot, like they brand new magazine, double stack, this is a full size gun. And luckily they were an experienced shooter and they were relatively close and it was an action pit. So they were kind of looking down at the target and there's a tall berm. And yeah, he barely kept them all in the range. It was close. It's amazing how fast the slide cycles on a handgun. Yeah, it is. It is nuts. Those things, if you let them go, if they aren't designed to be full auto with some sort of delay system, it's freaking crazy. The cyclic rate on like a Glock 18 is insane. It's like a little mini Uzi. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. That's got to be hysterical to watch. But I mean, still, I assume they're going to take care of it and not charge you for this and everything, and it'll get a nice checkup from the factory. People shit on Taurus, but it's a perfectly good company. They're not in the business of screwing people over. Well, yeah. I mean, you didn't send it in? Oh, come on. Send it in. Send it in, make sure it gets fixed. Yeah. I mean, that could be 2 times a month too often if it goes full auto on you. Are you serious? Like they don't send you something else? Like there's no, I mean, obviously they can't just take your product and keep it. They have to be reimbursing you somehow. Are they just not, they just like paying you back for it, which at this point is not enough to buy a replacement? I mean, I look at if it was that kind of thing. Oh, gotcha. I mean, is it something you can order the part? I assume it's like the disconnector or something. Oof, that's brutal. That's brutal. I mean, they weren't expensive guns, but they weren't that cheap. It was like a $400 gun, right? 450, I think it was. Hers was a little cheaper because it wasn't the Pro was the new one. It had some extra features, but I want to say hers was like 350, 375. Yeah, that's a ripoff. I mean, if you've got a defective product, you have to compensate people appropriately. I don't care how much they've gotten to shoot it. Like, yeah, hers was second. She originally wanted to get a first gen because somebody was selling the first gen one cheap used. And I told her, one of our other friends told her, like, we're all like, don't buy a first gen anything. Uh, just don't do it. Particularly like an economy brand anything. I don't care if it's a car, a gun, a stereo, anything. Like don't do if it's an economy brand, don't do first gen anything. Even on a premium brand, first gen is always buggy. But that's fucked up. Yeah, I guess I'd be in the same boat. I'd be like, well, keep an eye on it. If it ever doubles, you had a problem. Hopefully it doubles and doesn't keep going. Yeah. I've got to assume it's the disconnector. Uh, Either the disconnector or something with the firing pin jams and stays out. So then once the slide closes, it just slam fires. Um, I don't remember the mechanics of that gun well enough to have any kind of educated opinion, but it's the only two things that really apply. Yeah, hers was the DAO. But like you could get it either way. She liked the DAO because it was a lighter trigger than the double action pull, and she didn't care about the accuracy improvement once you were on single action. She just wanted it to work. She shoots. She does enjoy it, but she's not. She knows she's not somebody who's going to the range regularly enough. She wants everything to be consistent. It is easier for her. She's one of those people that actually does practice with her carry gun, but it's like every 6 months. So, but it is a big upgrade. She went from a little Beretta, pop-up barrel like a Tomcat in I think 32 ACP to that, and then also later got a Ruger LCP for when even that was too big, because it isn't a tiny gun. It's not like a super compact thing. It's just not big. So she was like, you know what? I got a waist and hips. Sometimes this thing's just not going to work. If I'm not wearing a big sweatshirt or a jacket, I need something smaller. And the LCP she could stick in a back pocket in her jeans, and as long as she wore something that hung down over her butt, she was good. But she was one of those gals who always wore skin tight, painted on jeans. And we always tease her that all of her jeans had a permanent print of the gun in the rear pocket, so that it was clear she carried a gun in that pocket, even if she wasn't currently carrying a gun in that pocket. Huh. That's fucked up. I will have to let her know about that. I'm assuming she knows. She's good about keeping up with that stuff. And her husband is also good at that. He's shoots a lot, buys a bunch of stuff, stays up to date on everything. But I will have to pass that along, because I'm assuming that at least for that kind of stuff, second and third gen, if third gen has the problem, probably second gen does too, or at least is potentially. But that's fucked up. Yeah, I lucked out on my SIG P320. Instead of somebody sending it in for the recall on the trigger, they took it to their gunsmith and got the whole Gray Guns or Gray Ghost or whatever trigger pack put in, and then turned around and sold it at the store. Like, they traded it in at a gun store. Complete. Like, they didn't, like, it was literally the compact frame slide assembly, and I bought the full size conversion for it. It wasn't the subcompact, it was just the compact. And I bought the full size with the full size frame. And so I've got both setups, but my trigger pack, my whole, firing mechanism pack has every upgrade imaginable. And I still got the thing for used pricing. It was great. And I lucked out because I bought it not right before, but like, when did I get that? I want to say that was like summertime pre-COVID. So, I hadn't had it long. Hadn't had it for a year when COVID hit. And, I had had it on my list for a while. I wanted either a Glock 19 or the SIG P320. And I went to the range. They had both to rent, and both of them had the Glock had the upgraded trigger already, had an Apex, and the SIG was stock. And I remember thinking, okay, one of the big things is the SIG trigger is better than the stock Glock trigger, but obviously you can change the Glock trigger easily. So if the Apex is nicer than the SIG, I know where I stand. I shot a tiny freaking little group with their SIG, and my usual okay group with the Glock. My Glocks and I don't get along real well. We fight over my thumb getting ripped up, and it makes me paranoid, even if it's not happening, even if I'm managing to keep my thumb down. It makes me paranoid, so I don't shoot them real well. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm sold. Let me go find one. And I'm walking along the counter looking for SIGs, and I hit the used section. And I'm like, hang on, it looks brand new. It clearly has at least an upgraded trigger. I didn't know about the rest of it yet. And it's $150 cheaper than normal, and it's coming with an extra magazine. I'll take it. And then walked over to their, SIG area and got the conversion kit to make it a full size and a couple more mags. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I always tell people, if you're not sure what you want, go to the range and try stuff. If they have rentals, if they'll do like 10 shots for $10, if they'll let you just keep swapping, you buy the ammo and you rent, but you can, like, within your hour of range time, you can keep swapping. Find a buddy with 5 options, find, 3 buddies with 10 options each. Try them. And if one speaks to you, great, that's the one. Unless there's some major issue, where it doesn't work for you otherwise. And I do shoot pretty good groups with my P80. Excuse me. But only with good ammo. The barrel is absolute shit, and it does not like anything other than premium ammo, which is very bizarre. I've never had a barrel that was like, okay, I'm going to be this good with really good ammo. And then if you put crappy ammo in me, I'm not just going to get worse by the amount of the ammo being worse. I'm just going to go to hell. Like, I had groups at, what was it? It was 50 feet, something like that. The group was like that big. And I mean, yeah, it's a little less than pie plate. Careful, slow fire. And right, bizarre. And that, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was with cheap ammo, but we're still talking Blazer brass. It wasn't like total shit. And I mean, I fired Blazer brass out of my SIG and my HK, and I mean, you get groups like that big at that distance, maybe a little better, maybe a little worse. Wolf's a little bigger, but you put like HST through the P80 build, and you get that tiny little group. I don't know. One of the things I plan to do is get a replacement barrel for it, get a nicer barrel, and do a direct comparison. Hang on, here's this ammo. Let me fire 10 rounds. Change the barrel, another 10 rounds of the same ammo on the target next to it. Go one target down, repeat with a different ammo. And do like Wolf, Blazer, Winchester white box, and then some, good ammo. And just, show what the difference is, see what it does. Because I want to say it was like a $79 barrel. I want to say it was either the Rocky Brass house brand or like a Swanson or something like that. It was as cheap as I could find in stock. And at the time, like, everything else that was available was a lot of money. It was, you jump from that to like $250. Now I can find a Lone Wolf. I can find, a few other good barrels, a Faxon one, in like $150 range. It seems like a reasonable thing to do. For my purposes, it doesn't matter. I don't think a carry gun or a emergency oh shit gun really, for a handgun, needs to be particularly accurate. But pie plate at 50 feet is kind of a bit much. I have standards, if only for my own ego. It's kind of, when you're at the range and you're going, but that was a good shot, and it's 6 inches off. Ouch. But the new work I'm going to be doing may get me a little bit of a discount on some stuff. So we'll see if I can find a way to get a discount on the barrel. I'm not sure that's something that is doable, but it may be as simple as somebody's got one that I can borrow. It's not like I'm going to do anything to it. It's a Glock 19 barrel. I'm just going to swap it in, right? But I'd rather have one. If assuming it shoots better, which I have to assume it will, I probably want to keep it. Yeah, I should probably get my butt out of here, and you saw me yawning. So thanks for stopping in. Thanks for the chat, man. And I will definitely be letting my friend know about that, because I don't want her having trouble. She doesn't need that kind of hassle. So take care. I'm going to close it out.